Good morning. I am Trent Gang, and welcome to the Here We Go podcast. So today, it seems like it makes a ton of sense just to talk about this Brandon Aiyuk saga again. So I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to give some of my thoughts on where things currently stand, what I expect to happen, and from there, I actually want to go into what we have currently in the Steelers' wide receiver room and what that depth chart seems to look like right now. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this thing. First of all, I'm going to give you all a pro tip. In order to survive the endless nonsense on the internet, do not listen to people with dog avatars. Do not listen to fake Steelers media who claim to have sources. As a matter of fact, don't even listen to real media like Andrew Filipponi who claim to have sources. They are never right. They throw out guesses claiming to have sources. Most of them are coming from their parents' basement to try to make you think like they actually have real information. There are credible guys out there that you can listen to. You may have heard of them. Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. News of this magnitude isn't going to be broken by somebody with 8,000 followers. I mean, come on. You guys got to use a little bit of common sense here. Look, I've stood by my belief system in this since day one. Brandon Aiyuk is not coming to Pittsburgh. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Can it happen? Sure, it still could happen. I just don't see a world in which this does happen. I've said from the beginning, it is going to take significant compensation for the San Francisco 49ers to move on from him. Now, nobody knows what they're asking for right now. It's not been officially reported. But let me show you what I think a package would look like from San Francisco's point of view. It's going to be George Pickens, a first-round pick, and Pittsburgh still has to pay $30 million for Brandon Aiyuk. So those of you dreaming of a Pickens and Aiyuk combination, it ain't happening. They're going to want George Pickens in the deal. And I'm sorry, but there's no incentive for Pittsburgh to move on from George Pickens right now. All you would be doing in this move is losing your first-round pick, which eliminates the ability to go get a quarterback in the draft. You pay $30 million to a wide receiver instead of George Pickens' current salary, which makes absolutely no sense. So you can't go sign a quarterback in the free agent market if one of these two guys flame out, or both of them flame out for that matter. And on top of all this, it still doesn't put you much further ahead than where you're at right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Omar Khan did not come up through this organization making dumb deals. He's not going to make this deal. And I'm sorry, but San Francisco has no reason to move on from Brandon Aiyuk. Contract. This is not a franchise tag. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, he's holding in practice. Who cares? Like, who cares? He can hold in all he wants. He can also get fined right now for holding in if the team wanted to push it. Is he going to miss game checks? I highly doubt it, because if he goes into this season and he decides he's disgruntled, he doesn't want to perform, you know what he's not getting next year? $30 million. This guy's going to play, and he's going to play to the best of his abilities, no matter what happens and what the rumors are. He has no leverage. His leverage comes next season if they try to franchise tag him, which, by the way, they can tag him twice. Everyone seems to keep forgetting that if Brandon Aiyuk walks next season in free agency, the 49ers are going to get a third-round compensatory pick. So why in the world would they trade him for a second-round pick? Why in the world, when this guy is sitting here fighting with an organization for a contract, why would he give the Pittsburgh Steelers a team-friendly deal? All of these rumors are absolute nonsense. It's not happening. He's going to want $30 million, period. Does he have a little control right now over where he goes? Yeah, he does. You know when else he'll have control? Next season when he's a free agent. The difference is, instead of 4 teams being in the mix for him, all teams are going to be in the mix for Brandon Aiyuk next season. Then he has real leverage, and his agent knows it. He can drive his price tag up next season. How bad does he want this payday right now? If he can get $30 million right now from a team willing to trade for him, yeah, he's going to take it. But if he waits and plays the year out, he's going to get paid anyway. San Francisco is going to want significant compensation. They're going to want a player in this deal, and they're not going to want Calvin Austin. So for all of you who are looking at that damn FanDuel trade that was out there, a second and third and Calvin Austin, get real. The 49ers are not trading Brandon Aiyuk for a second, a third, and Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin might not even make their team. Like, let's be real here for a minute. When you have Juwan Jennings or maybe Ricky Pearsall as your number 3, one of those two are going to be the number 3 if Brandon Aiyuk left, assuming no one came back in a trade. Do you think Brandon Aiyuk's better than either of those guys? I don't. Kelly can't lock up wide receiver 2 in an offense right now that has a bunch of journeymen. He's not going to go out there and be the number 1 or number 2 receiver. He's going to be the number 4. Or he gets cut because he really doesn't bring any special teams value outside of punt returns. Guys, listen, you've got to temper the expectations on this thing a little bit. There's just absolutely no way that I can see realistically Omar Khan stretching the salary cap, giving up significant draft picks, and losing our best receiver to go get Brandon Aiyuk. Now, if you ask me about an even exchange between Aiyuk and George Pickens, I'd make that deal all day long. That's not what we're talking about. George Pickens' attitude versus Brandon Aiyuk's attitude would be enough for me to say, go ahead and swap those 2 players. Good luck, San Francisco. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a Pittsburgh Steelers team in a rebuild, giving away significant draft compensation to get a wide receiver, which I'm going to say this right now. The wide receiver market is going to course correct in the next 3 to 5 years. It has to. The salaries just keep driving up for a position that's consistently putting out like 7 quality receivers every draft. Too many guys are coming into the NFL who could play immediately as rookies for me to see these guys continuing to get paid. It's the same thing that happened to the running back position. The quarterbacks keep driving up a significant chunk of salary cap. And as long as that keeps happening, somebody's got to take something. out of the equation. And the thing most likely to be taken out of the equation is the wide receiver money. It ain't going to be the edge rushers. Those guys are too hard to find. You're already not paying middle linebackers. You're already not paying safeties. And you're already not paying running backs. Where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from the wide receivers. So don't pay $30 million to a guy just because you need a receiver right now. This is not desperation mode. This does not put us in Super Bowl contention by making this deal. If it did, I'd say sell the farm and go for it. But it's just not going to be true. I just don't think at the end of the day, the 49ers are moving on from Aiyuk unless it's just too good to pass up on. And the Steelers are not going to be the team that are desperate enough to throw out something that is too good to pass on. Are they going to be in talks? Yeah, Omar Khan is always going to try to work out something and try to do what he does best. Work out a team-friendly deal and get it at his price. And it doesn't take looking that far back in our history to understand that he's not willing to overpay. I'll go back just to the beginning of spring when everybody in Pittsburgh said give up a first-round draft pick for Justin Fields. What did Omar Khan get for Justin Fields? A conditional sixth that can be a max of a fourth-round pick. So once again, Twitter Warriors 0, Omar Khan 1. And guess what? By the time this Aiyuk thing is done, it's going to be Twitter Warriors 0-2, Omar Khan 2-0. The guy's slightly better at his job than you guys are at typing on your keyboards. He's not selling the franchise to go get a second wide receiver in an offense that isn't going to be able to feature two number one receivers. You guys might want to just mentally prepare yourselves for a wide receiver from Houston or possibly the Colts. That's going to be our options. Omar Khan's probably not just on the phone with San Francisco. I would imagine he's probably talking to the Texans. They have a very busy wide receiver room right now. They have quality guys who are going to get cut. Do they have a quality guy at the bottom of the depth chart that maybe won't get cut that he wants to make a deal for? Would you throw in a fifth or a fourth round pick for a Noah Brown? Someone that I think the team had interest in anyway. I would. And I think he would be a very welcomed addition to our current wide receiver room. I saw another name pop, Alec Pierce from Indianapolis. Does that guy get cut? Does he end up in Pittsburgh? I think you could easily throw him in at number 2 in this current state of the wide receiver room. Look, I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I don't think I'm wrong. I'll eat the crow if the day comes. But as we stand right now during this recording, Aiyuk is not a Steeler. Aiyuk is not going to be a Steeler. I don't think New England has enough to offer. I mean, they have enough to offer. They want to sell a bunch of pigs. But I don't think they have the player swap. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is going to move the needle for San Francisco to be motivated to make that trade. They would have to give up a lot and some draft capital. Cleveland, if Cleveland throws Amari Cooper in along with a high-end draft pick, that can get the deal done. They're the one outlier that I'm not sure if this Aiyuk thing is just a complete stalemate and he ends up being a 49er, like without any question, I think Cleveland's a lot more in the running than people think. And it's going to be based on Amari Cooper. So I'm done talking about Brandon Aiyuk. I just think that people are going a little overboard on this thing. You want to see it happen, but unfortunately, guys, this is not Madden football where you can just take the trade thing off and make whatever ridiculous trade you want, and the team's going to have to accept it. This is real life. John Lynch isn't stupid. He's built a Super Bowl team from a franchise that was garbage. They've been in the mix every year. They're not going to throw this away because Brandon Aiyuk's throwing a hissy fit. Just not happening. The team's going to have to give them something that's just too good to pass up. Cleveland's the type of team that would do that. We saw that with the Watson trade. And they're probably ready to double down on the Watson deal to get Brandon Aiyuk in there so maybe somebody can help Watson actually look decent. I don't know. So what does this mean for the current state of the wide receiver room? Well, as of right now, I don't think there's any question that Van Jefferson looks like he's locking up the number 2 spot. I still expect a move to be made. Again, I'm not sure it's going to be a trade, like maybe pulling one of the guys from Houston out, which I think is the most likely scenario. I don't think there's anybody else on the market. And not to say the Houston guys are on the market, but I think the organization knows they're going to lose some guys regardless, some quality players. And if they can get trade compensation for somebody who's maybe in their 4th, 5th, 6th spot on their roster, it would make sense for them to accept it rather than lose a player outright. So I think there's still going to be a trade in play there. Just a matter of how much do the Steelers like the guys that Houston might be willing to move on from, and what we can give in compensation that would be fair for both sides. To me, that's going to be the only trade maybe that I see. I could be wrong on that because, of course, things happen that we don't know are going on behind closed doors. But that's where I see a trade happening right now. Or picking up guy who gets cut and released outright, which still likely may come from Houston. But right now, Van Jefferson seems to be the guy who, I don't know if he's just in pole position, as Tomlin would call it. I think he might be locking up the wide receiver 2 spot as we sit right now. The injury to Roman Wilson isn't doing him any favors. I was never truly in favor of a rookie, especially a rookie who's played the slot his entire career, moving outside and starting in the NFL. I think that's just a bad move and a bad decision. Let him be in the slot where he's comfortable, let him work from there and learn the NFL game. That makes a lot more sense to me. Calvin Austin III, he seems to have gotten us again. Looks great all spring. Looks great in camp. When the pads come on, he disappears. We may just be seeing what Calvin Austin is. He really is just the gadget guy with a ton of speed, a ton of quickness, but never truly materializes as an actual wide receiver in the league. When you put him on the field and try to get some wheel routes up the sideline and hopefully get a mismatch against a guy where he can utilize that speed and hit some deep shots, yeah, they're going to try to take advantage of stuff like that. But is he your day in, day out, every down wide receiver 2? No. It's looking less and less likely at this point. I mean, there's just, when you see the stuff coming out of camp, and I'm not there again. I'll continue to say this so that people don't get it twisted. I'm not there at camp. But from all the information I put together, from the people that I've been talking to on X and asking questions to, Calvin Austin just is not there. he is not going to be the wide receiver 2. He's not making enough plays. He's not getting open enough. Van Jefferson, I'm hearing, even he's not consistently getting open, but he is making some. In a room full of guys struggling, Van Jefferson is just the best of that group. I think right now where we sit, he's going to be your 2. Roman Wilson is probably going to be your 3. Calvin Austin is probably going to be your 4 when this is all said and done. That's going to be dependent on how quickly Roman Wilson gets back, how quickly he's 100%. You may see Calvin Austin start the year in the slot and then lose that positioning to Roman Wilson as Wilson continues to get healthy. Be ready Friday night to see Van Jefferson as wide receiver 2. It ain't going to be Brandon Aiyuk. Get ready to see Calvin Austin III in the slot. Now, of course, I'm not saying that it is a complete lock and Van Jefferson cannot lose this wide receiver 2 positioning. Preseason can maybe change some things. If he doesn't stay consistent throughout practices, that can change some things. Calvin Austin gets hot, starts coming on. I don't know. I just don't think right now. It seems like Van Jefferson's job to lose. And I don't think any of them end up wide receiver 2 by the time the season actually starts. It's going to be whoever gets brought in, likely from Houston. So temper some expectations, Steeler fans. You're not going to get a Brandon Aiyuk, but I got good news for you. You don't need him. Arthur Smith's offense is not going to be throwing the ball 40 times a game to make 2 wide receiver 1s happy. You've got George Pickens. Let's see what we've got in him as our true wide receiver 1. And you know what? There is a very realistic possibility that when this season ends, George Pickens is a better receiver than Brandon Aiyuk anyway. As long as he gets his attitude in check. He shows that he's gotten a little bit more maturity about him now. You may already have your guy. So take a deep breath. Understand that this offense is going to try to throw the ball 25 to 30 times a game. Everything's going to go through the running backs, including in part the passing game. You're going to see more screen game. You're going to see a lot more tight end usage. You don't need a wide receiver 2. They're basically going to be there for show. They're going to get about maybe 20 to 30 catches. I would anticipate Roman Wilson having maybe more receptions than your wide receiver 2 does this year. That is a very real possibility. So don't get disappointed when Aiyuk's not here. Understand the offense that we're running. Understand that right now this offense looks much better than where it was in previous years. The players are talking in a much different way. They like Arthur Smith. They like the offense he's bringing to the table. They like the intensity he's bringing to the table. This is going to be a physical football team this year. We're getting back to the 90s version of the Pittsburgh Steelers where ground and pound comes back. And that's the focal point of the offense, which is why I continue to say we don't need another high-end wide receiver. Temper expectations, understand what we're working with right now. Because this team's going to be better than what we've seen in the past. It's going to be a tough schedule, much different than what we've seen in the past. Last year, a lot of backup quarterbacks. This year, he's play a factor into what we got and what we're anticipating the schedule to be. But understand that even if we're a healthier team, we're going to be better just by the lack of attrition. We'll be fine without Aiyuk, I promise. So I hope y'all like this. I hope y'all share Give me some comments because I'm sure nobody out there is going to love what I'm saying right now. And that's okay. I'm just trying to give you reality. I'm not playing bias and I'm not playing favorites and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or anything. I'm just trying to be realistic. So comment on this. Tell me what you really think. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. Share with others so that they can tell me why I'm wrong. I don't care. I'm fine with that if you guys don't agree with everything I'm saying here. And of course, subscribe so that you can get the latest on every video that I put out. Hope y'all have a great day. Hope y'all mourn from the lack of an Aiyuk trade.